Hey everyone, this is Erica with Sebon Designs. I am trying to get started with some video, have some ideas for tutorials, but this one I just wanted to kind of get used to the camera, how this is set up and how this might look for you guys. So this won't be a very long video. This is actually going to be a really simple just gluing sort of my process. This is a new file that I cut a whole bunch today because I was super excited for sunflowers. And yeah, we're just gonna go through. I'm just gonna do the overhead camera for this time so I can get used to it, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of my process. So this is all cut. I have done a dry fit on there. I'm not missing any pieces. Everything looks like it's gonna fit okay. My next step, I usually try to slide this off. Kind of nice, like the tablecloth trick there. This does have some little pieces. I did post in the group today a little tip that I do sometimes. I'm trying to see if I have another one of these to kind of show. When I have a thin piece like this, this is actually how it cut. And I don't know if you guys can see that okay. Pretty thin. I ended up reversing the pattern and then flipping it over. So I get a better cut on that back side without as much char. And that just might be more my laser. I do use a X-Tool P2, so it is not the most updated version, but it is a workhorse and has done a great job for me. So that's my little extra tip. All my wood grain designs do have the basic design scored, so you can kind of line things up, and I've already gotten this out of order. So that looks like that's going to line up right there. First thing I do, and I almost always forget, so it's not the first thing I do, but any part that's going to show. So I have this little bit that's got some char on it. I'm going to grab a quick little piece of sandpaper block thing here. I get these in bulk on Amazon, like a whole box of the same grit. I like 180 or 220. This one says it's 120, but it's pretty worn down, so it's probably more like a 220 now. And I'm just going to get that little bit of char that would show once we get our pieces glued on. So I don't always remember to do that, but I did this time. Glue that I use, this is a Tight Bond. It's going to hold really well, but it's going to give me a little time. So I'll show you how I kind of move things around. This project is actually really an easy one. Not a lot of shifting of the pieces, so this is a great one to start with if you haven't done any of the wood grain designs yet. So other things that I do have ready, I don't think I'm going to need it with this, but most of the time I like to just have a scrap piece of wood and put some glue on it. I always keep toothpicks handy, and maybe I'll make a couple mistakes here so I can show you why I keep them handy. So I am just going to try to hit all these spots. So every piece is going to have some glue on it. And once we do that, glue is not my favorite thing. I was not gifted that great skill from the gods, but I usually get too much, not enough. Again, this one is a pretty simple project. So I'm just going to lay that down, lined it up with my score lines that I could still see pretty much through the glue. And now I'm just going to come, as I set these down, I'm going to kind of squish that glue around a little bit, and we're going to wiggle these in a little bit. This one, I might feel like I didn't get enough glue on that whole piece, and this is why I like to have a little glue on the side. I can grab some with a toothpick, maybe smear that around a little bit, spread it out. What you don't want is the glue oozing up between the pieces. So you want to get enough, but not too much. And I really can't tell you how to do that other than practice, but I will show you. I don't know if you can see that really well. I do have a little glue kind of oozing up in between my pieces. That is something I don't want because that might show. It's going to dry clear, but it's still going to kind of show in there. So sometimes it's great to get that toothpick, get that little bit of glue out of there. Try to lift and place that piece down, because if you squish it or slide it, that glue's just gonna squish up more. So I'm just gonna go around. This one doesn't have a whole lot. It looks like you have the whole thing covered, and then you start getting your pieces on and you don't. These are just gonna slide right on there. It is kind of satisfying when they all fit together so nicely. Grabbing all of these, just making sure I get them the right direction. Getting glue on the front side is usually not good. The glue kind of absorbs into that wood. Sometimes I can get it sanded off, sometimes I cannot, and then I kind of ruin the piece because the poly is not gonna stick to that and it's gonna show. But I've managed to put all that on. I've got a little glue seeping out on the edge. I'm not as worried about the edges. I actually like to let that dry just a tad because we're going to be able to take that off. This piece, I have it set up so that grain's going straight across, so you know exactly how to put it on. This maple, probably birch, doesn't have, I don't like the light colors so much sometimes, those maple and birches, because you can't always see the grains, but it looks really nice next to that walnut. So now I'm just going to kind of wiggle this around. One thing I do to see if everything's lined up, you can flip it over and kind of see if there's any edges that aren't lining up. It's a little easier on the back sometimes than the front. Oh good, I've got a lot of glue seeping out here so I can show you guys what I do with that. So I'm pretty well lined up on the back. I don't see edges sticking out too much. I go to the front, make sure everything looks good. Now I'm going to grab one of these toothpicks. This has had a minute to dry. I'm wiggling these around so that glue is getting spread out all along the piece inside there. And I'm just going to kind of wipe this off. It's dried a little bit so it comes off pretty quick, not leaving a lot of residue. If it's really wet and you wipe it, it's going to kind of smear. So I like to just have that dry for a second before I come pull that off. Sometimes it's a little difficult to get down in those corners. Again, it does dry clear. Usually I don't even notice it or see it. Sometimes I miss some and I do have to go back with an X-Acto knife and kind of cut that off after it's dry, but we want to try to look for that before it gets to that point. All right, so now we are dried. This one is not, all these pieces are pretty small, so we're probably not going to have any warping issues. If you do, you might want to clamp. I keep a whole group of clamps over here for these projects, and they just clip on, hold that down. Sometimes though, just to keep that even piece, I might take a piece of scrap. Here's a boot that I cut way too big, and put my clamps on that way, and it kind of evens out. And this isn't a great example of that. We'll maybe talk about that when we do a cross tutorial, because that's when we might see that warping and those uneven layers get in the way. So we have just made a lovely little sunflower here. And again, this is birch and walnut. I have other ones cut here, and I can show you some of that. We're going to kind of let that set up a little bit. I'm going to set that aside. This one I did with some cafe woods from Smoky Hill. They don't have a real, this isn't the darkest black. I don't think this is the nitro. It'll turn pretty dark when I spray it down. And I can look up the names of these. I may have to reference that later, of what cafe names they are. Macchiato, cappuccino, I don't know. So again, I'm going to start here. to sand off any of that laser schmutz that might be showing up. Spread some glue, hit each of those flower petals. I'm going to kind of tap that in a couple spots in the glue, make sure all those little edges have some glue on it. And then away we go. Again, as I put these down, I'm going to kind of wiggle them, get that glue spread out all over that piece. Maybe. There it goes. Watching for it to ooze up in between the pieces, because that's what we don't want. And this is going together really nicely. Like I said, this is a great first project if you haven't done one of these. That ring has some kind of tiny edges on it, but it's all one piece, so you don't have to get the tweezers out. And any of you who have done some of my others know sometimes you have to have those tweezers. And again, I'm going to wiggle those all around, make sure everything lines up, flip it over, hit all my edges, make sure there's nothing sticking out where it shouldn't be. And part of what makes this one easy is all those pieces kind of push to the middle. So sometimes when you're doing these, you kind of push this piece over and it slides this piece this way, and can really take a lot of adjustments to get that all put into place. Let's see, I have a little bit of glue seeping there. I should use a toothpick and not my finger, because when I get it on my finger, then I get it on the front of the ornament. And yeah, so he is done. I'm just going to double check, and we're going to set him aside to dry. This Titebond does do pretty well. I can't really move these, so just in that few minutes, this one has pretty much dried, at least enough that I feel comfortable. I'm going to go ahead and do a little sanding. I usually do this in the garage, but I'll do a little here just kind of to show you this process. And I like my edges just to have that rounded soft feel. Some of you may like the Eco Woods pre-finished product, and that's fine. I just love that wood feel, and that look when I put the poly on is just so great. So we are going to do a little white sand, kind of all the way around, and then I'm going to go look for some of these little scorch marks. I think there's been some talk in the group on masking. Some people like it, some people don't. I get really annoyed if I have to peel a bunch of stuff off, and I would rather do this. But if you wanted to mask these, you absolutely could, and save yourself this step, at least somewhat. I would still go over it a little just to maybe soften those edges. I don't know how else to say that. And some of that sawdust is going to get down in your open edges. I do have people ask about kerf a lot. And if you don't know what kerf is, that is just basically the amount of material that's lost when the laser cuts it. So when you're putting things together like this, sometimes we want to add a little bit to the cut so that they fit together tighter. I've never done that with these. I do understand kerf. I've done a lot with it for inlaid earrings. Haven't really had the need. I feel like they look fine. I wanted to create something that the average Joe can get in here and do and make something beautiful. So I try to make my samples as simple as possible. If you wanted to add kerf and you know your laser, that's the other reason why I don't add kerf in my my files as well as because everybody's laser is a little different, materials are a little different, and I don't want to make those assumptions. So if you like to add kerf, you absolutely can to the file, and some of these are going to fit together a little better and not have as much gap in between them. I did try on a few files, and I think it just really depends, and I probably just need a little more experience with it. It was actually the candy cane ornament, and adding the kerf, it just, because it was long and skinny, just didn't seem to work. So again, that's probably just more my experience, and some of you out there may have better suggestions on that, and we're certainly willing to hear and share those in the group. So at this point we have, this is all sanded, we've got a lot of dust in here. I'm going to kind of blow on it. I have a fancy little tool. Well, my husband has a big fancy tool in the garage, that huge air compressor that would definitely blow this out. I have a little tiny handheld thing, shoots air, kind of like the canister air, but it's not, it's just, doesn't have any cartridge or compressed air, but it blows that out really nicely without having to hook up the compressor or go turn that on. But you want to get all that sawdust off of there before you spray it, because that's all gonna show and make it look a little cruddy if you don't get that all off. So some sort of, way to blow. I wipe it on my jeans, blow it out pretty good, get a little spit on it, and then it'll be ready to go. Yeah, there's still a little bit in there, so I'll show you in another video down the road my special tool for blowing the sawdust out. But that is really just a quick gluing tutorial on the sunflower. And feedback on the video, can you hear everything okay? This is my first time doing this. Any feedback there is much appreciated, constructive feedback. And I think that's it for tonight, and hopefully I can edit this a little bit and share it and make sure it is watchable, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thank you.